Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings Week 15. DraftKings Picks and preview. Going to run through some of our favorite stacks. Mike White is out. The doctors, they will not clear him. So Zoomer Zach Wilson has been ender-cursed back into the starting role for the New York Jets. More on that in a second. Reminder right now to play in the Listeners League. I believe the Saturday one is full, but there is a Sunday one with around 400 spots left to go. You can go hit the link in the description. No rake, 3 max entry, $15 to play. Easy stuff. Fantasy Golf World Championship. So fangolfchampionships.com. The giant one and done is open now too. The race for the Mayo Cup, $50,000 for first prize. It's a 5 max, $125 per spot. Even if you're not interested in golf, it's a super fun contest. You make one pick per week all season long. Most money wins in the end. Super simple, and it's super flat payouts. And you get a chance to win $50,000. And I think 2 of the guys who have won the past 2 years haven't known anything about golf. So it's a great way to go get into it. So fangolfchampionships.com. The ballots, people, are still going. There's still $1,500 to give away, although within 30 seconds, there's only going to be $1,000 to give away. Me and Tambo will give away that $1,000 on next Friday's show. Cold, hard cash. This week's winner of the $500 is at Pearson 649. Maybe he's won Lotto 649 in the past. Anyway, you're the winner. Congratulations on your $500 Christmas bonus this year. But who you should really be asking, Chris Meaney's on the line, by the way, from ftndaily.com. Jonathan Gordon, we didn't bring this up yet, won the Millionaire Maker last week, viewer of the show. Sub at runthesims.com. You can use /Mayo at the end of that and get yourself 10% off. But I don't think I've ever seen anyone win the Millionaire Maker by so many points. Like, he played Jarek, who I think scored like 35. If Jarek had scored 0, I still think he would have won.
Man, that was very, very impressive. I saw you. Well, I saw him. He tweeted you and showed the lineup, and I actually talked about it on Mean Street. So he had the perfect lineup, I think, of all time. You're right. I mean, the gap between first and second was significant. Trevor Lawrence and some of the weapons that he had. I forget some of the pieces, but it was a perfect lineup, and congrats. And I just want to give a shout out to you and Tambo. I mean, giving away a lot at this time of the season is fun for a lot of your viewers and listeners. And he's had a lot of success this season, and it's really nice to see you just kind of give back. So good stuff. You broke the Zach Wilson, Mike White news to me before we got on here. I was going to talk up the Jets. I'm not going to. So good luck this weekend, Cuss.
I did not like it anyway, the Jet stack. I just think that's a very low-scoring game, probably even lower scoring at this point, although I've been known to be wrong about these things in the past. But if you do want to get into the draw, there's still that $1,000 grand prize out there, again, next Friday. If you hit the link down in the description, you can find all of the ways to get your ballots, but the way to get the most ballots in the draw is leave a rating and review and subscribing, by the way, to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. And you can do it on Spotify as well. Rate it 5 stars. Send me like a screenshot or something in the Spotify one, because you can't actually list anything in there. And boom, those are the most ballots that you can get. We also have a TikTok page now. Meaning, I'm not big on the old TikToks. Matt Best is heading up this initiative, but he's putting vintage PME clips up there, and they're fucking hilarious. I forgot about them.
Perfect. Yes. I will immediately be following you. I follow like 3 people, FTN Network, Deanna, and then you will be the third, I guess, that I will follow. I'm not big on the TikTok either, but everyone's doing it. Kind of have to, take your part and do it as well. But I'm sure Maddie's going to have a couple nice videos there. The old school videos. What, are you going to have some FNTSY stuff in there?
We do.
Back in the day.
Yeah, we have the one with Jeff chewing out the lady who brought her baby to the game. The all-time best clip from the show.
So many good memories in that facility, of course, in the booth and doing some podcasts and things like that. I'm looking forward to that. That should be good. Yeah, TikTok, got to do it, man.
Unfortunately,
I had a TikTok video the other day.
Oh, did you?
Just a little NFL, NHL prop. Just trying to have some fun with them. It's short and sweet, and that's it. I take a walk in the backyard, freeze my ass off, do a quick little video for the people, and then that's it. And I don't know if we'll be doing it come January, but we'll see.
That might be tough. For sure. YouTube Shorts is going to get their monetization better soon, so I might just double up on both of them, just start uploading them to YouTube sometime in the new year once that actually goes through. So maybe that can help. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Optimals for week number 50. It's a 10-game main slate. Obviously, we're not talking about Saturday on this show. Tambo covered that on Fantasy Football Picks and Bets before he took off to New Orleans. By the way, he's competing for $2.5 million this weekend. If you're wondering where Tambo is, he's in New Orleans. So go Tambo. Tweet your support to Tambo. Yes. And also following Tambo on Twitter gets you 2 ballots into this draw. So you should probably do that as well, as does subbing to Mayo Media Network on YouTube. But Justin Herbert is a part of the optimal lineup this week. So it's Herbert, ETN, Latavius Murray, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers, Greg Dulcich, Derrick Henry in the flex, and the Tennessee Titans D. So the optimal seem to think you should play your quarterback against a defense and play a running back and a receiver against that defense at the same time. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but independently, obviously all these guys are really good plays. But when we look at like the optimal overall running backs, it's Latavius Murray, which I don't like, Meaney.
I don't like it at all. No. I mean, I know they're going to go to their second string quarterback, and I think it's actually up in the air what they're going to do in Denver. Actually, it's Arizona what they're kind of up in the air, their quarterback. But I mean, Latavius, just don't feel like this team's going to be able to move the ball all that well. I know Russ hasn't played well, and you take Russ out. What, this offense is just going to cook? I don't think so. I don't like the call at all. Actually, I know he's fairly cheap, but there's a couple running backs kind of inside this range, maybe a little bit more expensive as you see on the board, even, Knight, or I don't know if go back to McKinnon in a game that they'll just have their way with the Texans. Rashad White, it's a tough spot, but even I would expect maybe more fantasy points from him. Latavius Murray, I think you're really hoping that, he catches a couple passes.
Touchdown.
8 carries last week.
This is such a touchdown dependent play. This feels like he needs to score twice.
He has to score.
I mean, we simulated the slate 10,000 times. It's all because of his price point is the reason that he keeps on coming out. Because at $5,100, like, you can kind of make these cases against everyone else. Like, oh, what if Fournette, ends up with 6 catches again and outscores Rashad White in that circumstance? Maybe Michael Carter played more snaps than Zonovan Knight last week. Not that he did anything. Knight was way better, but there was still a split there. At least with Mike Boone out in Denver, unless they really incorporate Marlon Mack into things, it's like, wow, he's probably going to touch the ball like 15 to 20 times. He'll get all the goal line work, and they're playing Arizona. It's not I see the recipe. And maybe it's just time for me to believe the simulations.
Yeah, I get it. The price is nice. And, Boone is out, but Marlon Mack could get a few more touches. He had 3 carries last week for 15 yards. It's just, when I picture this game, I feel like it's a 13-10 game. I don't know if there's a lot of touchdowns scored in this game. I think the total's 36.5, and I actually feel pretty comfortable taking the under. I don't think we'll see a lot of offense. If I'm projecting White or if I'm projecting Latavius, and if I can trust Nathaniel Hackett, which we can't do, we don't know if this guy's just going to give him a full workload. But if we can 15 plus carries on the ground, maybe a couple catches, if he can rack up 60 yards, even maybe then he can return value if he doesn't find the end zone. But I don't expect a lot of offense in this game. I suppose if you are stacking up at, the top with the Philly stack, which we'll get into, or maybe potentially, Mike Williams and company with up against the Titans in that secondary, you'll have to probably spend down at one of those running back positions. And I think this is a way to do it. But yeah, I mean, you could trust it. Projections could be there, but I wouldn't be shocked, Pat, if we did see a little bit of Marlon Mack. Maybe we only saw the couple catches from him last week because they were down so big, and Arizona won't be up at any point, I don't think, by 3 scores in this game. But yeah, I'm not crazy about it.
The projection has him at 15 carries for 70 yards, half a touchdown, 3 catches for 24 yards. That puts him as the 6th overall scoring running back. I don't know if I necessarily buy into that because that's giving him a lot of weight over Marlon Mack in the circumstance. But if it is a close game, I can actually see that working out. So the top 5 right now as we speak on Friday, before we know all of the concrete injury news, obviously runthesims.com/Mayo for that discount will get itself updated once the injuries become official and we can actually project that out a little bit. It's Latavius, Etienne, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara are the top 5 in terms of optimal rate. I think Alvin Kamara is a pretty interesting one here against Atlanta, that he has just screwed everyone so badly over. He had the 2 or 3 touchdown game, and he's been horrible ever since then. But now he gets Atlanta. It's like, all right, okay, maybe we got something coming back here. I can't tell if he's going to be popular or not, because I don't know if I want a part of popular Kamara.
No, I don't think you do. I feel like people are off of Kamara. I don't know. And this is the time of the year, you probably get a little bit of an uptick on some of your videos and people wanted to get into your contest because their season-long leagues are dead. And they had Kamara, right? They had Kamara and a lot of their season-long leagues, and they didn't make the playoffs. And they're going to come over and play Alvin Kamara in their first time, maybe sprinkling some money on DFS. I don't think so. But I'm actually interested in him. I mean, he's fairly cheap. And to your point, I mean, he's done really nothing. Mostly on the ground. He's not the same type of back in the first 4 years when he entered the league. It was 80 plus catches, and you just knew that a lot of his value came through the air, and you were hoping he could find a touchdown or two. The biggest difference between Alvin Kamara this year and in years past is the groundwork. I mean, 12, 7, 12, 8, 9 carries, and not efficient with these carries either. 2.2 yards per pop on 12 carries, 26 yards, 13 yards, 42, 26, 30. He's just not doing anything on the ground. And then you have the fear of Taysom Hill stealing a couple, red zone touches, which he's done so far this season. So all of that kind of sprinkled in, coming off the bye, a matchup against the Falcons against a rookie quarterback. The defense for New Orleans playing a little bit better lately, starting to get some healthy bodies back. I like the Saints here to win this game. So I am pretty interested in Alvin Kamara, and I like the price. I don't know. We're not projecting him to be pretty chalky over at FTN either. So I'm kind of interested, man. He needs to find the end zone, though. He really does.
Which is the hardest part, because you do have, I know that Taysom Hill hasn't really been doing it. Mark Ingram, that awful Mark Ingram, unfortunately for him, was placed on injured reserve, so he's going to be
down.
out. But if you just bring in Taysom Hill at the 3-yard line, he runs it in. It's like, oh, great. There goes all my upside with Alvin Kamara. But it is a fantastic matchup. Do you think Ramondre ends up playing? Because I don't think that he's going to go.
I don't think he's going to go either. Today's a big day for him. Wasn't spotted at practice the past couple days. It sounds like Harris is good to go, and he is going to play. So I wouldn't imagine that Ramondre is going to play. And it's not a bad spot against the Raiders. If we can just, I know the Patriots backfield's always a bit messy, but it has been Ramondre lately. If he isn't active and Harris is good to go, I would say he's going to get a full workload. I would say 15 plus carries for him. A lot of the red zone work, no catches out of the backfield. If the Raiders do push the pace, then maybe we do see, a couple other different running backs catching passes, not so much him. What is his price? I actually didn't look at
he's
5'8".
He's 5'8". So here's the interesting thing. If Ramondre doesn't go, so limited practices on Wednesday and Thursday for Damian Harris, which means that he's probably going to play. Now, if he doesn't play, Kevin Harris and Lucky Pierre Strong are both the minimum. $4,000. Yeah. So even if it is Harris, do we think that Strong is the pass catcher?
Yes. Yeah, that's how I view Strong. That's how I viewed him. Looking at some of his tape heading into the draft is like the quote unquote James White replacement. I mean, 2 targets for him last week. Had the touchdown, even chipped in, of course, on the ground with the 5 carries for 70 yards. Most of that came on one run. He had a 44-yard run, but he is pretty explosive with the ball in his hand. So he kind of showed you that. I would expect him to get some play, third down, second down, potentially. Maybe White, maybe Harris suffers a bit of a setback. You don't know. Things like that could happen in that game. He hasn't played in quite some time. And the last time we saw him, he tried to power through an injury and he left halfway through the game. And then he's missed the past couple of weeks. So I think Harris is at 4K, to your point, at the minimum. He probably catches 3 or 4 passes. We actually have him for 2.2 grabs. Not even knowing.
You mean Pierre Strong?
Pierre Strong, sorry. Yeah, not Harris. Pierre Strong. And not even officially knowing if Ramondre or Harris is good to go in this game. So he's very interesting as like a punt flex kind of play.
Yeah, especially if you can think that if you do, I know it's a 1-point game right now in terms of the spread, but if you do think that the Raiders push the pace and they do need a pass catcher, or maybe they do give the full-time workload on the ground to Damian Harris, and what we're looking at is like a 60-40 share, at least the 40% share if it goes to Strong, not Kevin Harris. We're looking at Ramondre had 3 targets in that game before he got hurt. Strong ended up with 2. They scored the defensive touchdowns. They didn't need the full complement of snaps on offense, and then he ended up breaking the big one. But if you just look at what he did in the receiving game, if it's close and they have to pass, he could just backdoor his way into 4 or 5 catches here at $4,000, which, look, it's not optimal, but if you can find the end zone, you're probably not going to get the Jarek game from last week, but that's sort of the template that you're looking for from a player like this. The problem is he might score 0 points.
Yeah, it's possible he may score 0, but it's been really hard to watch the Patriots offense this season. And last week, I noticed just a bunch of checkdowns and screen passes. And what we've seen this season with Vermondre, I mean, he's led the Patriots in catches 4 times this season. It was 2 times in a row before he suffered that injury last week. This is just their offense. And if there's no Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers can't suit up, what are we really looking at? A couple deep shots to Nelson Aguilar and a fun revenge game against his former team. Maybe a couple shots in the middle of the field to Hunter Henry. Other than that, it's handoff, or maybe a couple catches. So I like the call. I like the comparison too to Jerick McKinnon. He wasn't really on my radar. I was just more sour that Ramondre wasn't going to play because I seem to play that guy every single week on DraftKings because of all those catches and all those dump offs. And this is a good spot against the Raiders. They're among the leaders in terms of completion percentage against, for quarterbacks. I'm not saying to stack Mac Jones with all these guys, but it's just a one-off play. Just like, as you said off the top, the guy who won, listening to you, he didn't have any other Chiefs. It's had Jerick McKinnon.
And that was a late swap, weirdly enough, because I think I think there was someone with Lawrence who was ahead of him, and I forget what his stack was. I think he had Travis Homer and DJ Moore, Donta Foreman or something like that in the Seattle-Carolina game, and he swapped off for Jerry Jeudy and Jerick McKinnon, who scored a combined 70 points.
It's the best swap of all time. Are you kidding me? A hat trick from Jeudy, and then Jerick McKinnon goes off. I mean, talk about making the right call. I'm the other way. I would take those 2 out of my lineup to put in 2 losers, and then I'd be crying at the end of the day. So good on your viewer there. That's awesome.
Yeah, so the other one who projects out really well, especially in points per dollar, is Isaiah Pacheco at $5,900. Obviously, he's not going to catch the ball, but they're 14-point favorites against the Texans. I think people might be a little bit enamored with Jerick, although people are much sharper these days anyway, but 5,900 is a pretty good price, especially, and ETN's going to be super popular, I think, at $6,000. I don't know how much I like that. I would like him if he was 3% owned. I don't know if I like him so much if he's 10 to 20% owned. But Pacheco just kind of slides in nicely. I think by the base of this discussion, you can see that I'm having real problems at running back this week because it's so hard to afford the top guys.
It is. And honestly, I don't think I love a lot of the top guys. I mean, you could always throw in Eckler, of course. We know his value is really through the air, and most teams don't even want to run on the Titans. I mean, we saw the Eagles a couple weeks ago. Man, I really wish I pushed Philly the last time I did the show with you against the Titans. They didn't even try to run the football. They just chucked all over them. And then we saw last week the success that Trevor Lawrence had against this team. So it's not like Eckler's a guy that you really can project for 10 to 12 carries with confidence. And I don't know if he's going to get that kind of workload on the ground. So I know Mike Williams is back too. He could be pretty sneaky actually, because I think most people will probably want to play Williams and Keenan with Jeff's boy at quarterback. But at the same time, Eckler will catch some passes from Herbert. Don't really love Jacobs. Something about this Pats defense is pretty good. And, Henry's in a smash spot. And then Mixon, I don't really like either against Tampa Bay at 7-2. You're seeing P. Ryan get sprinkled in still. He's involved, whether it's on third down. I've seen a couple red zone. I saw it last week. I mean, he scored a touchdown, right? He was involved inside the red zone, even with Mixon healthy. So a lot of those backs up at the top, I don't really love. Points per dollar, we have Pacheco as the 5th best. Knight, Montgomery, ETN, and Alvin Kamara up at the top.
Really,
people are smart.
They're
not just going to go to McKinnon. I don't think.
I have Latavius as the highest points per dollar running back right now. It's Latavius, ETN, Henry, Kamara, Pacheco. Then James Conner at 6,900 is a lot to pay for James Conner. Although he's been excellent, but that's a tough scene. This $5,000 range is really going to sort itself out this week because you have DeAndre Swift is popping up in projections. I have no faith in DeAndre Swift to touch the ball more than 6 times in a game at this point. So it's Latavius, ETN. I mentioned Damian Harris if Ramondre is out, Pacheco. These are the types of guys that, Donta Foreman, Najee Harris, Rashad White, like you had mentioned earlier, Zono Van Knight, these type of players. And you also have, what do you expect from the Texans backfield? Would you want to play Dare or Sex Rex Burkhead? Burkhead's $4,600.
I know one of these guys, and this time last season, Burkhead went off. We had a fun little combo. It was more of a season-long combo in our FTN Slack. I brought this up, which Texans back is better suited to get I only said 7 points in a PPR league. Like I started pretty low here. And then Ratcliffe shot me down right away. And he's like, listen, if you're relying on one of these Houston Texans backs to have a good day, you're screwed anyways. And it's like, listen, man, like I may not be screwed. Maybe we're talking DFS here. Like I could have a good balance of my team and one of these guys could get a 5 points and I could be just fine. This time last year, we saw Rex Burkhead in this role in Houston. I think it was maybe week 16 and he popped off. He had a fantastic showing. He had a lot of the work. But what I noticed last week was Dare was getting more run, and he kind of seemed like he was trending up as like the backup to Pierce. He was getting some first and second down opportunities. He definitely had played more snaps last week, and he ran more routes. I kind of have a lean to him, although a lot of the projections that I see and look around and I hear people are talking about Rex and talking about Burkhead as, the veteran back and the guy maybe to catch more passes because, they're double-digit dogs here against Kansas City. I kind of lean Dare. I feel like he's going to get the first and second down opportunities. I'm not willing to say that he's not going to get any catches out of the backfield because he's got 4 grabs over his past couple of games too. And that is with Pierce there. I think he's got a little bit more giddy up in his step than Rex Burkhead at this point of his career. So I lean that way. But one of those two guys could be a difference maker because they could catch 5 or 6 passes this week, Pat, against Kansas City.
See, I agree. And they're both sort of receiving backs. I actually think that Burkhead will be the one doing the first and second down work in this circumstance. And then, because Dare's been used as the third down back and in the 2-minute drill when Pierce has been active. So I don't know if that means they just think that he's a better pass catcher than Burkhead, who we know is like an all right pass catcher. And they just rely on Pierce on the ground to go over and over. And I could just see them feeding Rex Burkhead. And I don't know, that game just confuses me to no one because they're going to play like 2 quarterbacks. Driscoll's going to run the ball like 14 times or something stupid like that. And there's no Nico, no Brendan Cooks in this game. I mean, there's probably not Brendan Cooks. Nico is out. So it's like Chris Moore and Philip Dorsett and Amari Rogers again. So
ugly. Maybe
we should just stay away. I don't know. Very quickly, the receiver optimals for week number 15. Obviously, the Mike White news just happened, so Garrett Wilson is still popping. I'm guessing he'll still pop in the projections, but I'm going to go manually adjust that down because the one thing that we've seen between Mike White, Joe Flacco, and Zach Wilson is that when Flacco and Wilson and Mike White have started games, the Jets throw the ball like 55 times a game. With Zach Wilson, they try to throw like 20 times a game. So maybe Knight is the play.
Maybe he is. I think that they'll lean on the run. I know Detroit has been much better against the run lately. Overall, if you look at the statistics, you see, top 5 in fantasy points against the running backs and inside the top 5 in yards per carry allowed to the position as well. But they have, they're playing really good football lately, and the defense has been much better. They're getting pressure on the quarterback, and they have done a good job of stopping the run. But I think you said it perfectly, and that was the first thing that came to mind because I was interested in the Jets, and I knew that Garrett Wilson would probably be a little bit popular, and Mike White is trending up. He's done some good things, and it is the Lions in the secondary. You can throw on them. But in games with Garrett Wilson, when he plays with Zach, he's averaging like 7 targets. In games when it's Flacco or Mike White, it's 12 targets, to your point. I mean, they really trust other quarterbacks not named Zach Wilson to throw the football. So I would say I have to downgrade everybody in this offense from the passing attack, even Elijah Moore, who is pretty cheap. Conklin's been getting some targets, hasn't done a whole lot with those targets. But I'd say they lean on the ground here. Maybe a little bit more for Michael Carter this week. You mentioned he played a lot, but didn't do a whole lot with those opportunities. But I would say, man, Donovan Knight looks pretty good. He really does. He's had a couple nice, strong runs. I was very impressed with the touchdown run he had against the Bills last week. I would say he's in for 14-plus touches in probably will be a slow grind. Jared Goff has got 2 touchdowns on the road and 20 at home, so he hasn't been good when there's no dome over him. I would say this is a slow-paced game. I don't think a lot will happen, but Knight is a guy that in the 5K range.
Yeah.
Out of those running backs, I'm more interested in him than Latavius Murray. I think there's a slightly higher ceiling there.
Okay. So Keenan Allen is the most optimal receiver of the week. He gets spit out in 1 of 5 optimal lineups after 10,000 simulations. Garrett Wilson is second, but I don't like that anymore with Zach Wilson instead of Mike White. Then it's Jacoby Myers, who might not play because he hasn't passed concussion protocol yet, then DeAndre Hopkins, then Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, the Hopkins if they just put Patrick Surtain on him, I don't know if Surtain can like stop him, but it should slow him down. And Amon-Ra actually does make a lot of sense. Like play the middle against the Jets. Yeah. That's a fantastic matchup for him. But Goff outdoors, like you said, there's a lot of question marks around all of these guys this week. So I think we should probably actually let's talk about defenses where we can go like near the bottom or defenses that you like before we start building some of these teams out. To look at it right now, the optimals at defense are Broncos number one by a bullet at $2,700. Yeah. The Titans at $2,200 are second in terms of optimal rate, but that's mainly because they're $2,200. Tampa at 26, Patriots at 28, Panthers at 33. Now, just objectively, who are the defenses that you think you can afford and actually like this week? Because, yeah, we can all like the Cowboys defense, but they're like $3,700. Or you can like the Eagles defense, they're $3,900. That's getting a bit difficult to press these guys in. The Carolina D at $3,300 is pretty nice, especially if Trubisky or even Mason Rudolph ends up going. Hell, even if Pickett ends up going, who cares? Like, J.C. Horn was everywhere against the Seahawks last week. He had his hands on the ball almost every single time. And you have three quarterbacks who are very willing to give you the ball.
Yeah, very absolutely. I like both of those defenses inside that same game, actually. Carolina checking in as you're talking about it, even the Steelers at $3,100 against Sam. So I think both of those defenses you could get to pretty easily, actually. I'm not getting to any like Dallas or Philly. I'm just not getting to it. Kansas City at 4K. I'm just not going to do it. If you are, if you can get there, great. I think that those three options are okay. Definitely Dallas, and then I would say KC over Philadelphia if you can afford the extra $100. Broncos for sure. $2,700 quarterback play is not going to be good in Arizona. And then another defense, Tennessee, I think is also okay. I have more interest in the Chargers. I think the difference here, maybe rolling out Tennessee, get a little bit of leverage on the field, because I do think that the Chargers are going to be pretty chalky. Man, their secondary is just so awful.
I don't want to play the Chargers. Listen, I'm not. I know they looked good against Tua last week. I'm not playing the stupid Chargers defense this week. Like, Derrick Henry is going to run for 8 million yards against them. Like, that's not...
No, I wouldn't play their defense. The Titans defense I would play.
Yeah,
I may have misspoke there.
The Titans defense has scored negative points each of the past 2 weeks. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. It's a brutal secondary. And the only reason I would play them is if I weren't playing the Chargers, because I feel like the Chargers are going to be pretty chalky. But yeah, I mean, the secondary is awful. They're going to allow a lot of points. You're just hoping for a couple sacks here at that point. I'm living in that mid or the high 2s to the low 3s in the Broncos at 2.7, in the Steelers at 3.1, and then the Panthers, as you mentioned, at 3.3. What about the Lions?
I was gonna say, what about the Jets?
Assuming that they're not going to throw the football.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about the Jets for
of course.
32? So the Jets are 32. I think the Broncos are the one. They're the cheapest defense that I actually like, and they're $2,700. Although the Pats at 28 is pretty nice.
The Pats at 28 because, I mean, everything we've seen from the Raiders this season has just been like disappointment. I know it sounds like they're going to get Darren Waller back, maybe no Hunter Renfrow this week, but I mean, the Patriots defense is really good, and they're one of the best fantasy defenses in the NFL. They get pressure on the quarterback, and Derek Carr is throwing a pick every single game, basically, this season. Yeah, we have the Pats. The Pats are graded out pretty decent for us over at FTN as well. What about the Saints? Would you get to the Saints, or is it too pricey for it? 3.8.
The Saints are more than the Cowboys are. They're $3,800. Yeah, of course I like the Saints this week at 38. It's just going to be tough to mix those in. Like I can't see myself going higher than 3,300 at the Panthers.
33.
And
Panthers, yeah.
I mean, maybe this will be easier to do once we start building out lineups, because I don't really know where I'm going to fall yet in terms of how much money I have left over. So let's try to build out some of these stacks for week 15. I want to start with Chargers stack because they keep popping in the optimal. So we'll go full on Herbert stack to see if we can make this work. So I think we just play the easy route here and just go Herbert. I like Williams more than I like Keenan this week, for the record. I think he's the type of receiver that really beats up. Maybe you just want to do a skinny stack because, well, there's a chance that Herbert is just too much money. Herbert, Allen, and Williams altogether might be too much money. So let's throw all three of those guys in with Derrick Henry and see what happens for us here. Because it looks like Treylon Burks is going to be out. Maybe you could go Okonkwo at at tight end. That saves you a ton of money if that's the Titan that you end up bringing back instead of Derrick Henry, and then you're left with $5,300 per player. But if you use those three and Derrick Henry, you have $4,300 per player left. Makes it tough.
It does make it tough. I was messing around last night with an Eagles stack, which I think is a little bit more pricier than the Chargers one, but I didn't have that expensive running back that you have in here, Derrick Henry. I mean, you could make it work. You probably would have to go, even if you went down to Knight here at the running back position or, Latavius, then you're looking at 4-1 remaining. Say we drop down to
who's the cheap tight end? Who's the cheapest tight end that we like? That's not Okonkwo, because I mean you can overload this game if you want. But if you didn't want to do that, who could we do? Dulcich is 36. That's actually pretty. Dulcich at 36, I think, is the cheap guy that you probably want.
Or Henry, yeah, one of those two. I don't mind Hunter Henry if those two pass catchers are going to be out for New England.
Yeah, I still think I'd want Dulcich.
So you put him in 3-6, and then you got 4-2 left over. I mean, you spend down at D. Just say you roll with the Panthers at 3-3. I mean, we can go a little bit cheaper if we wanted to at the Broncos.
Let's go with Patriots. Let's go with Patriots at 2-8.
Okay.
Throw them in. Now we have $5,100 for a running back, receiver, and a flex. Who are the wide receivers that are kind of popping out to you in this like $5,000 area?
Well, I mean, Drake London is on my list, but I don't love the ceiling. New quarterback play. I just feel like he's going to get some targets. I feel like he's in line for maybe 8 or 9 targets, even though, a bit of a run for his team. I think that could change pretty quickly. A little bit more expensive than that, Zay Jones at 4-9 against the Cowboys.
That's not bad, actually.
And then, yeah, I mean, this is a one bad game from him over the past 4. Like, that was the one against Detroit. He did have 7 targets in it. It was a couple drops. It was just it's a weird game for Trevor Lawrence. He threw the ball a lot. A lot of his wide receivers got targets, but there were some bad throws and some drops. But before that, I mean, last week, 12 targets, week 12, 14 targets, and week 10, he had 10 targets. So, I mean, even with the 7 included in there, I mean, this is a guy who's averaging over 10 targets per game over his last 4. So, the volume is going to be there at that price. So he's okay. I mean, you chuck him in, and then you got 5-1 for a flex.
You have we have 5-2 for running. Yeah, 5-1 for a flex going forward with that. So that's if we put in Zono Van Knight, right?
Yeah, that's if we put in Knight.
So for a flex,
Latavius there too, if you want.
For a flex, yeah, Latavius is there. How much is Foreman this week? I think it's a nice. He's 5,400. Nice rebound spot as favorites against the Steelers, who got gashed on the ground a week ago by the Ravens. I don't hate that, because if you did that, you could. Okay, let me try this. We'll take out Zay Jones and we'll take out Knight. We can put in Donta Foreman, because I think people might go to Hubbard over Foreman. I still think that Foreman is the better back in this situation.
I agree.
Deontay Johnson might not play because he hasn't been practicing. Would you prefer, because they're both basically the same price, would you prefer Deontay Johnson or would you prefer George Pickens?
Man, I'm shocked that the targets have gone down for Pickens since they traded Chase Claypool. I thought, all right, wheels up for this guy, and he's going to be ready. I still feel like I lean Pickens because he's the guy that gets targeted in the end zone. I mean, he only has 3 touchdowns, but Deontay doesn't have anything. He's getting volume, but he's not doing a whole lot with the volume. So, I'm shooting for upside. I'm shooting for touchdowns. So I have a slight lean to Pickens. But if you look at the back of the football card for Deontay, I mean, he does seem like the safer play at this point. 8 targets in his last 3 games. He's racked up 16 catches, 82 yards last week. Trubisky was focusing in on him earlier in the year. When it was Trubisky, you heard Pickens talk about how he wanted the ball more. So it's a very small sample size, but the go-to guy for Trubisky, if it is him under center, has been Deontay Johnson. But you're right, he hasn't practiced all week. So if he's not playing, you're going to get a little bit more of an ownership on Pickens, but it's going to be really hard to ignore him as him or Pat Freiermuth as the go-to options in this offense.
Well, let's take those guys out and try this again. At receiver at $4,200, we can play Chris Moore.
It's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
I think you may have to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go chasing here, but $4,200 does allow you to do a lot in this lineup. Now that gives us a running back and a flex for $5,500 a shot, which can alleviate some of the pressure here. The problem is when you fall into this range at wide receiver, you're in this like Jerry Jeudy, Garrett Wilson. Juju rates out really well against Houston, and we have Chris Moore, so maybe we use Juju as our flex, And then we have $5,300 for a running back. I think that lands us right on Bam Knight. It does. Okay.
It does, yeah.
So
that's not bad, actually.
Yeah, so we have that mini correlation with Chris Moore and Juju, Patriots D, Dulcich, and Zono Van Knight, along with the full-on Chargers onslaught with Derrick Henry. It's tough to make the Chargers, top-end Chargers and Derrick Henry work, but I don't hate this, though.
No, this isn't bad. Fits like a glove. Juju was really the only guy that got targets last week. I mean, Watson was out there just as much as Juju, really, and running routes, but he didn't get any targets. It was him and Travis Kelce. I don't feel like this team is just going to all of a sudden lean on the run. Even if they're up 14, 21 points, it's a pass happy offense. We saw it last week with Jerick McKinnon. And that's why he's so valuable, is because he is getting sprinkled in first and second down opportunities, and he's catching passes out of the backfield, and having him on the field, not that they're showing their true colors anyways, because they are wanting to throw the football, but there's a bit of a difference when you have Pacheco on the field as opposed to Jerick McKinnon. But yeah, you got Juju here. You got both guys that had double-digit targets last week. I don't think Nico Collins today is going to be a big day for Nico Collins. I thought maybe he was close to playing, but if he's not playing, I mean, who else are we looking at here to catch passes? We talked about the Houston Texans backfield. So 4-2, it's a nice little run back. Yeah, more with Juju, Dulcich in there at tight end. You could even go down to, if you wanted to go down to Hunter Henry, I mean, you could, and then you can spend up a couple for, upgrade on the Pats D. But this isn't a bad build, Pat. I wonder, I feel like the Chargers are going to be pretty chalky, though. I feel like they're going to be the chalkiest stack of the week, no?
Oh, of course. Like, just looking at these games, like KC in Houston has a 49.5 point total, but most of that is attributed to Kansas City, who's a really difficult team to figure out in terms of stacking. Yeah. Dallas, I mean, if you can figure out the right, keystrokes of the Jags-Dallas game, but all those guys are expensive now too, except for Zay Jones and Ingram you can continue to run out, but eventually it's going to be an ETN or Kirk game, then you're absolutely screwed. Philly and Chicago, most of those points go with Philly, and then you have this game, the Tennessee Chargers game. It's 46.5, but I think that people like the Chargers side of the ball in terms of how they score points. Like if it's not Eckler, you basically know where it's going to go the entire time. So let's throw that in there. I think there's many ways you can tweak that. If you didn't want to play Derrick Henry, I think if you played Okonkwo at tight end, then all of a sudden you kind of free up a little bit more money for a higher end mini correlation rather than Chris Moore or Juju. Or hell, maybe you use Chris Moore and Juju and figure out a higher end running back as we go through that to replace Derrick Henry in that line if there's someone more that you like. But that one's tough. I don't know if I'm going to end up going there. You said there was a Philly stack that you were playing around with, because I had something about that too. So give me your Hurts lineup and see how we can try to make this work.
Well, it's it's Jalen with the two wide receivers. I kind of like Devontae more than AJ this week. Man, Devontae is just open all the time, and he's much cheaper at 6'4". He's got 8+ targets in 4 straight games here, actually 5 straight games, and he's got back-to-back games with a touchdown. I just see a guy that is open all the time at Philly. So if you roll out Hurts, AJ, and Smith. And I agree with you when we were talking through the Chargers stack. I like Mike Williams more than Keenan. So if you just wanted to maybe get away from AJ and do Smith, I mean, it opens up your lineup a little bit more to get more studs in here. But if you went Hurts, AJ, and Smith, I mean, that is sitting there at 46, 45, average out.
Okay.
It's very similar, but you're not bringing it back with anybody. Like, who are you bringing it back with? It's like Cole Kmet or nobody, really.
It's Cole Kmet. It's just an onslaught. Because the only guy that you'd actually want, and this is what I wanted to go to, I don't like this build. I mean, we'll figure it out because I think that we can. I like this build better with Fields as the quarterback.
And another way to be different of it too, I guess, is maybe just to have Devontae and then maybe Miles, or maybe you shy away from Devontae and you just have Miles Sanders. Like, that would be a different, because Eagles are going to score points.
They're
one of the highest they're going to score.
I want to get access to Philly guys, but I can't. And listen, maybe you want to use Equinemius St. Brown. Like, there's cheap guys on the Bear because Claypool might not even go this week. Obviously, Mooney is out. It would make sense for Cole Kmet in this line. How much is Kmet?
Yeah, he's 4K.
He's
4K, and the Eagles do struggle against tight ends. I mean, this year they haven't when you looked at the overall numbers, but you got to take that with a grain of salt because, honestly, there's a lot of brutal tight ends in the league. They do struggle against tight ends. They struggled last year against tight ends. The two corners are going to lock into Economia St. Brown. Maybe Chase Claypool
Lock
plays in the slot.
in.
I know,
Lock
lock into Dante Pettis and Economia St. Brown. Yeah. I mean, who's Fields going to throw the football to? He's probably going to tuck and run, and he's going to throw to Cole Kmet in the middle of the field.
Hey,
Eagles, like I mentioned, they do struggle against tight ends.
Don't forget the heir to the chip fortune, Byron Pringle. He's still on this team.
That's right. How much is he? He's got to be min price. Yeah, he's $3K.
That's actually not terrible. Like if that's how
It's not awful.
If that's how you wanted to punt everything out. Let's see. Let's use like who do you like let's see what who the projections like on the Bears the most at receiver. It likes Claypool right now, but Claypool might not go. If it's not him, it's Equinemius St. Brown at 3,700. But like, do you just roll the dice on Byron Pringle and hope he? No, let's not do that. This is what happens when Tambo.
No, let's not do that.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
You need to be more. You're an idiot because that's what Tambo says to me when I'm here. Like, I want to play this loser who gets no points. He's like, why would you do that? He gets no points. Like that's not a bad point to bring up.
I feel like the Bears will probably score 20 in this game. Like I just don't know where those points are going to come from. I'd say Cole
Fields,
Kmet, right?
It's probably Fields. It's Fields rushing or Montgomery plunging it in from the one. Do you think that Goddard's going to play in this game?
I do think he's going to play in this game, but I don't think he's going to be full go. I think he's going to be pretty limited. I think you're going to see him probably play 35% of the snaps.
Yeah, and he's 4,700, so it's not like he's 3,400. Where hey, I'll take a roll, I'll take a flyer on Goddard here and see how this turns out. It's like, oh no, he's actually quite expensive. So let's see if I can figure this out. This might make us go to Latavius Murray. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, you kind of have to. When I was building it yesterday with the two Eagles guys, I didn't have Fields. We can mess around with Fields and Kmet and then have AJ or Devontae, whatever. Or maybe it makes more sense to have Miles Sanders if you're not going to play Jalen Hurts. You just feel like Miles Sanders is great, double-digit touchdowns, maybe finds the end zone twice, and then it helps you because you don't have Jalen in there. Jalen, you got a pitcher, right? If I'm not playing Jalen, I'm hoping he's not going to throw 3 touchdowns, and it's all Miles Sanders, and then the other way is Fields coming back. But the worry I have is, man, wide receivers have really just torched the Chicago Bears lately, and I just feel like both of these guys are going to find the end zone. It's Smith and Brown.
So here's the lineup: Hurts, Smith, AJ Brown, with no run back from the Bears. Latavius Murray and Zonovan Knight as the running backs. Mike Williams and Okonkwo as a mini correlation at receiver and tight end. Broncos D to correlate with Latavius Murray, and then Zay Jones as the flex.
I don't hate that, man. I like that run back with the Chargers Titans, the 1-2 there. I think Mike Williams is I'm not breaking any news here, but I almost feel like he's a must play at his price. I mean, just what the Titans secondary has been awful, and he is he's the poster boy of like tournaments, man. He's Barry Boomer bust. He can go off for 220 yards this weekend. I would not be shocked at all. So having that in there, you just have to spend down a running back, right? You don't have that alpha running back like we had in that last lineup with Derrick Henry. But like I said earlier, the top of the board at the running back position it's not super appealing to me this week.
Let's do the field side of this and see if that can work out a little bit better. So Fields and Kmet, I think we go to. And then Miles Sanders?
I'd say Miles. If you're not going to play, Hurts, I'd say you go to Miles. 6'5".
So it's just a little mini. Fields, Sanders, Kmet. And then we're kind of off to the races. We keep saying we like Mike Williams a lot. I really like Chris Olave this week, by the way. I know
Olave too.
I haven't mentioned his name at all, but he's in that like mid sixes. Let's see if we can make him work. Olave, he's 6,500. That's tough. Defense, just drop down to the Broncos. And like we haven't even tried out any of the Patriots running backs in any of these builds yet, but we're going to need more information on that going forward. So maybe we use Broncos D, throw them in there. Who was the cheap? We like Chris Moore as the cheap receiver, right?
I think he's the best cheap option other than Zay Jones. Okay.
So
I think London is. If you did Olave, maybe we can do a build later. Maybe we have just Olave and London in one, just like those two guys. That's it.
That's so gross.
Or just Olave.
That's so gross.
And Tambo. I hear Tambo now. Shut the hell up, guys. Why you played Drake London? There's people playing DFS for the first time this week because they drafted Drake London in the 4th round.
So okay,
just go to Moore.
How about this? Fields, Sanders, and Kmet, Pacheco, and Chris Moore as a correlation. Mike Williams in here as well. Broncos defense. It gives us $6,500 for a flex, which would leave us in the range of, I mean, hell, we could just overload on the other side of the Eagles game and use Devonta Smith again. You could use Zeke in this game. You could use Jerry Jeudy, although we've already, we have Broncos D. I mean, we can find out a different one from Broncos D, but like you could go Jerry Jeudy in the flex against Arizona, and then you can get yourself up to Steelers D if you really wanted to.
Yeah, you get a slight upgrade. I think, yeah, if you wanted to upgrade over there. Yeah, you got Olave at 6'5", you got Smith at 6'4", you got Mike Williams at 6'3". I think those three guys are all really good options to put in at the flex. This build is okay. I think it's unique. I think it's pretty different. I don't know if a lot of people will play Fields. And I think the difference is having Miles Sanders here in this lineup. You know, like we talked about, if it's a 3-touchdown game from Sanders or it's just a lot of running here, then we kind of separate ourselves from a lot of people that will play Jalen and AJ Brown, because both of those guys are going to be pretty chalky this week. I agree as well.
You can switch it around a little bit too. Like keep Chris Moore in at $4,200, use Juju as your flex, and then you can go Sanders and ETN as your running backs, and then you can have Panthers D at $3,300 if you really wanted to. It's just a different way to look at it. Instead, you can use Juju instead of Pacheco and go that route.
Yeah, man, this Dallas and Jacksonville, you keep bringing up ETN. What do you got for him? Do you feel like, did you say earlier you think from a point per dollar standpoint, he grades out pretty well for you?
Yeah, he's like one of the best guys on the slate, but I feel like he's one of the best guys on the slate every single week. He doesn't do anything.
I know.
He's like
the
Kamara.
Last 2 weeks. Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been very disappointing for ETN. And maybe it's the run defense, right? I talked earlier about the Titans. You can't really run on them. 17 carries. They tried 17 for 32, 1.9 yards per carry. And then Detroit, the defense, as we talked earlier, it's been much better. Their run defense, 13 for 54. Dallas is not a smash spot either for him, but at 6K, he does kind of remind me the same sort of feel as Alvin Kamara. Is just like, do I even really want to play him? He's not doing a whole lot. That maybe he checks in with a lower ownership, but that game could be sneaky as well. Like the 3 games I probably have the most interest in, I mean, they're one of them, right? I mean, the Philly-Chicago one, the Tennessee Chargers, and then it's that one. I mean, I haven't really even bothered to dive into Cincinnati and Tampa Bay, and there's all kinds of playmakers on both of those squads. But there's some cheap pieces here, whether it's Zay Jones or maybe Michael Gallup. Maybe it's a Gallup week. Maybe Dak hooks up with him a couple times. Like he's another, I mean, what is he? He's 4-5 in that range. I don't know. That game should be some points, Pat, in Dallas Jacksonville.
Well, do you obviously, if you had to play one Dallas Cowboy, it would be Pollard, right?
It would be Pollard or CD if I had to play one. It wouldn't shy away from maybe the backfield and go CD.
It wouldn't be Zeke. Zeke's $6,100.
I don't mind Zeke. I mean,
all right, we can do this. Let's do
$6,200.
Let's just run back the same one stack that won all the money last week. That always works. Lawrence, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, CeeDee Lamb at receiver. We have $5,600 per player. This is like the cheapest This is why I think people will go to it, because it's pretty, like the Jacksonville side is cheap.
It is. Yeah, it's very affordable. Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good lately if you wanted to go Trevor Lawrence, or you avoid, I don't know. It's tough to go Dak. So you pick a choice here between one of these two running backs, I think. Say we go Zeke. Say we'd be a little bit different with Zeke.
Well, I threw in CeeDee Lamb.
Okay, so you're going to chuck Dak in there with CD?
No. He's on the other end of the Trevor Lawrence. Like it's Lawrence, Zay, and Ingram with CD as the bring back instead of Pollard at $7,300. So he's a little bit more expensive.
I like that more. Yeah.
And now this is interesting. I mean, let's use Latavius Murray just because he keeps kind of popping here, and that could be anyone. $5,900. Who does that get us to? Pacheco, if we wanted it. So here's a lineup that you can build. This one, I would guess, probably projects for the most points. Lawrence, Zay, Ingram, CeeDee Lamb. Derrick Henry and Mike Williams as the mini correlation in that game. Latavius Murray and Broncos D, along with Isaiah Pacheco in the flex.
I like this
lineup. But Pacheco could be you could turn Pacheco and Broncos D into Damian Harris and Patriots D if you wanted to.
So yeah, just wait. Like, let's just, I mean, you're watching a little bit later on. I have some more news on the Patriots backfield. I kind of like this build. I think it's different. You know, you have a different quarterback. You still have a piece of the Chargers game as well. So with the Henry and Williams, two guys that we like, and really probably the best spots of the weekend. The Chargers can't stop the run, and the Titans can't stop anybody through the air. So you have a piece of that game. And then I think a bit of an underrated stack in here, right? We're not going to the Cowboys backs, right? We're trusting your model, and we're trusting Latavius in there, or Bam, or whatever way you want to go with the running backs. And then you got the two guys who have gotten a ton of volume for the Jags over the past couple of weeks, and then CD, who, I mean, he's a stud, and he's the number one option for Dak. And again, you're painting the picture, right? You're painting this picture of neither of these running backs go off. It's tough, right? It seems Pollard and Zeke, one of them seem to go off every single week, but maybe they just kind of cut into each other. And maybe it's a CD Lamb 2 touchdown game. The defense rolls, and then you get some garbage time throws from Trevor Lawrence playing catch up. Because I don't think ETN is going to be that efficient again on the ground this week. So I would much rather go to the Jags pass catchers than to roll him out at running back.
And the way that I look at it is, I know that Evan Ingram primarily operates, obviously he's a tight end. He's operating out of the slot in the middle of the field, but both of like the Cowboys are deciding anyone to play corner for them right now. So you want the guy on the outside, that's Zay Jones, and you think that they'll put more primary coverage onto Christian Kirk in this spot. So then you have, I mean, unless Marvin Jones absolutely goes off in this game. So the other way that we can fill out this lineup, the Lawrence stack, we take CD out. We'll just kind of clear everything. And then we'll go running back, and we'll go with Elliott, who continues to get all these goal line carries. Like, Pollard's still scoring from distance. I mean, watching the game last week, it seemed like, I'm pretty sure Zeke had 7 carries inside the 5. Like, he had 4 in a row at one point. Didn't get in because, you know, that's the way that he rules. We'll keep in Derrick Henry and Mike Williams. I'll get rid of Pacheco. And we'll keep in Broncos D for the moment, but we don't need them because we don't have Murray to go along with it. Like, we have $6,500 remaining for a wide receiver and a flex if we want to. So you could do something like, do we want anyone on the Cardinals side of the ball? I feel like we don't.
I don't like anyone on that team. I think it's just Connor. If you want to play Connor, that's it. Just because the volume has been there, and a lot of dump offs last week. I noticed when Kyler left, so maybe he can catch 5 or 6 passes, but I see a lot of people like Hopkins. I ranked him pretty low this week. I just don't feel like anything's going to happen in that game. And Surtain, you brought him up earlier. Poor quarterback play. I'm not into it. I don't like him.
So if we throw in, I mean, I like objectively Chris Olave, like I said. So we can throw Olave into this lineup if we wanted to. Or you can do something like, hey, let's go up. Who's an expensive running back that you like? Just in general, in this like $7,000 range. Do you like... let's see here. Mixon, Pollard.
We're not going to do Pollard.
I mean, we already have Elliott.
Yeah, so we're not going to roll him out.
Kamara?
Oh, man. Kamara would be the play for me. Kamara or Sanders?
We can go Kamara, but that leaves us $5,300 for a receiver is the problem.
Well, if you went Sanders, then it leaves you a little bit more. Then you can get your boy Chris Olave, right?
Would that be enough? I don't think that's enough.
You're just shy. You'd have to could you get to Juju?
I could probably get to Juju. Let's see. Sanders, 65. No. I'm missing on Juju by $200. I mean, we could play Titans D in there, but I really don't necessarily want to do that. So I think
we should play Titans D.
I think it's easier to go up at running back for the flex. So go like Kamara at 68, and then that throws us back down into DJ Moore. I mean, Sutton's not playing. One of the Pittsburgh guys.
It could be Pickens. If Deontay leaves, Pickens could be. If Deontay leaves, Pickens is a good price, Pat, at that point. I mean, looking at this board here, I'd say those two Steelers guys up at the top. If we find out that Deontay, I mean, he didn't practice, hip injury all week here. And if he's out, he does become a lot more interesting to me. I would project him for probably at least 6 targets at that price.
You could also throw Chris Moore in at wide receiver at $4,200, and that leaves you $7,900 left to play with. Can we find at below the Broncos? Who do you like the most?
For defense,
like Falcons D. Like, who cares? They're playing the Saints. The Saints terrible.
Yeah, sure. I'd rather roll with Falcons than the Titans.
I heard Paul mumbling behind the camera. What?
Yeah, I'm usually like wasting time here, like going through builds while I do this, and like I tried to land on a Falcons D, and it's like they haven't got a sack the last 2 weeks. Like, you need some pressure on the quarterback to do some things.
You do.
I think.
Yeah, it's a good
that
call.
game
We
could
probably
just turn
shouldn't
into lots of running.
All right, well, let's say Buccaneers defense at 2,600 then. Maybe they can get pressure on Burrow. Burrow takes some sacks, whatever. It's probably not a good play, but
Sure.
Defense is very difficult to predict, right? So here's a lineup that we can roll out. Lawrence, Zay Jones, Ingram with Zeke coming back. That mini correlation of Derrick Henry and Mike Williams. Chris Moore is the receiver. Bucs defense. A.J. Brown is the flex.
Ooh, AJ. All right. Yeah. I dig it. I was looking more into Zeke. I mean, touchdowns in 6 straight games. You mentioned he's getting a lot of the goal line work. Right? I know everybody is talking about Tony Pollard. He's that flashy running back that seems to get inside the end zone outside the 20s. But Zeke has been getting a lot of that work. This is a good lineup too. I think it's very different, right? As having these Jags in here, I think separates yourself a little bit from the pack. And you still, as I mentioned earlier, you still have that Chargers, that nice little mini correlation between those two guys, which I do like. And having AJ in there as a flex, I may go Miles, but
it's just we had all this money left over. I didn't know what to do with it.
It's normally not the case. I think what we've realized is that when we're in a pinch, Chris Moore is our guy this week. I think we're riding with Chris Moore.
Correct. If you need the savings, Chris Moore is right there for you at 42. Yeah. Now watch it be Philip Dorsett.
Much cheaper than that. I mean, it's possible. We've seen a couple games from Dorsett, but I just, not getting too much into recency bias. I mean, we're fresh now and seeing it, and who knows what they're going to do at quarterback. We see Jeff Driscoll in there with a couple snaps as well, but at 4-2 for a guy that had 11 targets last week and 10 grabs, and even just a couple weeks ago before that, Patty had 7 targets as well. So this is a guy who has been getting involved, and there's nobody healthy on this squad, and they're 14-point dogs. Kansas City's not going to pull a Dallas of last week
they might
struggle on offense against this squad. They might, but I'd say that the Texans emptied the tank last week to try to beat Dallas, and I'd say KC is going to crush them.
Let's talk about Burrow in that game, because you mentioned there's just playmakers everywhere. So Burrow Chase, there's an easy side of this. It also might be a nice rebound spot, like a flop leg play to go back to Mixon, who disappointed last week. On paper, this matchup is very difficult. I feel like the last time that this happened for Mixon, he scored 4 touchdowns in a game. So
I know.
We haven't even really mentioned him so far. I think he's kind of off everyone's radar at the moment. So how would you play this out? If you're like, do we think that Higgins plays this week? I guess is the first question.
I say no. It's obviously, I'm just speculating here. This that injury popped up for him on Thursday, and Zach Taylor took all the blame. He said, "Listen, I wasn't going to play him. It was my decision not to play this guy," and I totally get it. I mean, you were without Chase, for a few weeks. You have Super Bowl aspirations. You need a healthy T. Higgins here. Tyler Boyd's not healthy either, so you need a healthy T. Higgins down the stretch of the season. And I've followed my boy Paul Daniel Jr. yesterday, and he was very limited in practice yesterday. So I would imagine today's going to be the same day. So what do you do with T. Higgins? It's a later game. It's very risky to roll this guy out. If you're playing multiple lineups, you can take a shot and you could swap him in a little bit later on if you wanted to. Potentially in that game, you could maybe move away from T. Higgins and get to Godwin, who's $200 cheaper.
I think we use Godwin
put him in your flex, but
yeah, I mean, you could do
absolutely.
that.
If you're stacking this game, you have to have Godwin, I think.
See, here's the thing. Like Tyler Boyd said, he's going to try to make it work this week with this broken finger. I don't know how reliable that's going to be. I just wish if Higgins was out, I could play the crocodile on a Tyler Irwin at $3,600 and just be done with it, and that would be great. So maybe we leave those guys out of it for the moment. And just our stack is Burrow, Chase, Godwin. Work from there. that seem decent?
Yep. Chase, Godwin, Burrow. Absolutely. Those three. If you're looking to be contrarian, and believe it or not, it would be contrarian
Evans
to roll out Mike Evans because this guy hasn't done anything. I know. Right?
You know what? I actually like that more. I actually like that more. I like Evans more than Godwin as a play as a part of this lineup.
I mean, he's got the higher ceiling for the touchdown, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at air yards, he's getting the targets deep down the field. It's just, it's not, look, 4 catches on 9 targets, 2 catches on 9 targets, 5 catches on 11 targets. I mean, it's not like this guy's not getting any volume. It's been there. It's just, Tom Brady hasn't been accurate and the offensive line is not great. He hasn't topped 59 yards since, he's been really bad. Since week 8, 123 yards. I mean, he's had fewer than 10.4 fantasy points in 5 straight weeks.
Listen,
so again, if you're looking for a different play, this is it.
I'm a huge dog in my first round season-long fantasy matchup against a guy I really do not want to lose to, who you'll see tonight at the Christmas party. But just you don't want to lose to this guy.
Just take him out.
But I'm off to a hot start. All my Christian McCaffrey scores me like 27 points. Lockett has a bad game, but still has like 14 points. I have Mike Evans. I have Mike Evans on that team. He's due for a good game.
Man, go get Best to find some old footage of you and Gabe talking about being due. That was hilarious. It's not a thing, Gabe. It's not a thing. Yeah, Pat. It's a thing. He's due. He hasn't done anything in a month. He's going to do. But listen, Mike Evans he's much better than this. We've seen this. He's 1,000 yards in every single year of his career. He's a touchdown machine. Double-digit touchdowns is what you can expect from him. And the fact that he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 4. Are you kidding me? Week 4, and he had 2 that game. He's got 3 on the season. It's been a really bad year for Mike Evans, but the ADOT is high. You're getting targets deep down the field. I kind of dig it, man. I think you're going to beat your buddy here this week. You're in his face with a couple touchdowns from Mike Evans.
His team is good.
Like I got. Let's play some players from his squad.
Well, let's try to figure out who he has. He had DK go last night. I'm currently winning 40.1 to 12.5, and I have a 32% chance of winning.
Good start. Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's got Herbert, Diggs, CD, Metcalf, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Hawkinson, Mixon, Green Bay D.
Wow. So he's got like 3 top 10 running backs. It's pretty good. Yeah.
I'm playing fucking Jacoby Myers, who might not play. ETN and
you pick up
Donta Foreman. And with Matt Ryan.
Pick up Chris Moore anywhere?
I actually have Chris Moore on the team. I picked him up, so I can play. I'm probably going to play him over Myers, but the projections don't say that that's going to work out very well for me. But we'll see when it comes down to it. So the rest of this lineup, I've actually started to fill this out a little bit. Burrow, Chase, Evans, Mike Williams, and Okonkwo is a mini bring back. Patriots defense. And let's just pretend like Damian Harris is the starter. We can throw Damian Harris into this lineup that gives us $5,200 for a flex. That actually lands us on Latavius Murray as a flex, which, whatever.
Meant to be, I think. I mean, you trust your model. He's grading out for you. He seems to kind of pop up for us every time we're building a lineup. So I mean,
I think that's why he ended up that's exactly why he ended up in the optimal. Because once you start building out these lineups and you have the salary remaining, it's like, oh, Latavius Murray fits perfectly.
Yeah, 5'1" Latavius. Again, just going back to him, it's just Hackett. We can't be shocked all of a sudden if friggin' Marlon Mack is getting 15 plus carries. It'd just be a pain in the ass.
We could drop down.
Yeah, I mean, at that price point, why not?
Is there anyone at 53 that we like? Not really. That's the problem. Like could use
not really at all.
We could go Patriots defense to Broncos defense, Latavius Murray into DJ Moore. I don't know if that's really moving the needle for me. I played DJ Moore last week. I think he scored 0 points.
Yeah, he left early with an injury. He's off the report, so that's good. I was surprised. I thought maybe he'd be shut down. He's headed for an MRI. So full participant.
Let's try that.
Another guy, you just look at the back. You can roll him out. I mean, he's definitely the number 1 option there for Sam Darnold. And his usage is higher when Sam is under center as opposed to any other quarterback he's played with over the past 4 years.
So we could go DJ Moore as the flex and then put in Broncos defense. Is just another way to play that if you really are opposed to using Latavius Murray in that spot, which I'm not. I'm not pro Latavius, but I can get that. I can be coaxed into it. I really wish there was like that easy, because every week we do the show, it's like, oh yeah, play Jets defense at $2,200. This is great. No, we just don't have one of those this week.
No, we don't. I think just the cheapest defense I would roll out is the Broncos.
Yeah.
To Paul's point, right? I mean, we're getting too cute with other defenses that are awful and can't get any pressure. But there, if you don't want to go Latavius, if you can find a way to get to Bam Knight at 53,
well,
or
Bam Knight, Bam Knight is in this lineup, unfortunately.
Okay, my bad. Okay, so then we can't. We got him in there. But yeah, you get the news on the Pittsburgh guys. If there's no Deontay, then Pickens becomes a little bit more easier to stomach. You put him in there, or you drop down to Zay Jones, and then you always have our guy Chris Moore. But Chris Moore is in a lot of our lineups here. I do like this build. You get Chase in there with Mike Evans. You're avoiding both running backs, 2 decent run defenses, bit of a split on both backfields as well. Just looking at the snaps, Pete Ryan played 29 to Mixon's 39. He ran more routes than him, and he still had 4 carries, and he had more targets. Too.
He scored.
So
he scored this
fully going away.
And he scored the touchdown too. I'm not going to play Pete Ryan though.
No. I'm just saying, like, maybe not play Mixon.
Yeah, but maybe that's because it was first week back from an injury. Who knows?
Sure.
Is there any other side that you want to go to here? Like that we haven't built out? Like, do we really need to build out a Mahomes one? Because I just don't see myself playing Mahomes.
No, I'm not going to play Mahomes.
Like Vegas?
Not really, man. Like, I would say if there's another game to look at, it would be that one, because
inside
the only 2 guys that really... Yeah, inside, defense is trash, got weapons. I mean, Devontae Adams has been a beast, and so has Josh Jacobs. It's a bit of a tougher spot, I think, for Jacobs, which maybe the ownership will come off of him just a little bit, because I think people in that range will – you agree? People will probably play Derrick Henry. Like, if you have the money for a running back to spend up on, they're probably playing Derrick Henry.
Yeah, or Eckler.
Even though Jacobs has been the best running back in fantasy, or Eckler, yeah. So you could go –
1 second.
I don't know. I feel like if I'm playing the Raiders, I want to play Devontae Adams.
Yes. If you're playing and if you're playing Devontae Adams, this is a point that Tambo always makes. Like, Devontae Adams can't go off if Derek Carr doesn't go off.
Exactly.
So you just play those 2, and then you play Harris, or if Harris is out, you play Lucky Pierre or something like that as a bring back, and maybe that could work out. I'm working on something here. Oh boy,
Lucky Pierre may be in this lineup regardless. If
maybe
we feel like Carr and Adams are going to go off.
I suppose that's true. Like, if they're going off and the Patriots are playing catch up, I think Pierre might be the look there. Do you prefer Algier or Cordero Patterson, Meaney?
I prefer Cordero.
Let's just
Cordero Patterson.
Let's just call it Drake London and see what we can get to here.
Yes, good call. Yeah. It's the young quarterback in his first game. Come on, you want to keep your starting job?
Oh no. Oh yeah. Throw it to Drake London if you want to keep playing. Although Mariota's dead and getting knee surgery at this point.
Yeah, he is dead.
Okay, so Dalton as our quarterback, who has some pretty nice fantasy games this year, by the way.
Okay.
This is sort of like the cop out to like the how much money we saved with the Trevor Lawrence lineup. You go Dalton, Olave, London, those 3, and you have 50.
I like it. I like what we're doing here.
You have $5,600 per player. We'll use Broncos D. Now we have $6,200 per player. We can, like, maybe if we use that Williams Okonkwo again, that will save us, and see what we get to with that. Okonkwo, $3,100. Okay, we have $7,200 per player for 2 running backs and a flex.
Not bad. I'm just plugging in all the pieces here too.
So in this lineup, we can use Jacobs, because we've already used a Charger and a Titan. So we can use Jacobs if we want to. We're back down to $6,700. That can get us Pollard if we want to throw him in as well. And then we have $6,300 for a flex. Okay, I'm going to take out Pollard and I'm going to use Miles Sanders. And as a flex, we have more money. We have $6,900. Connors, Kamara. Oh no, we're doing this stack. You can have like Godwin. Shit. Can we get? How do we finagle? Is there anyone in the low 6s you like?
I mean, not really. I mean, Pacheco, I guess. Pacheco's okay at 59. I mean, we talked Evans, but I don't love him. I just feel like it's if you're game stacking with, with Chase and him, it kind of makes sense. Judy, I'm not chasing last week with the quarterback change. ETN, I don't love. Garrett Wilson with the new quarterback. I mean, I'm sure ownership's going to kind of decrease with Garrett Wilson because Zach. I think that's okay, actually. I still think Garrett is okay. Zach, man, he's awful. He is so bad. But I still think at 6K against the Lions,
I'm staying away
probably
from
one of my favorite guys in this range.
Nah,
You're staying
man,
away?
I'm staying away from all Jets pass catchers. So we can go Dalton, Olave, London, Pollard, and Sanders as our running back. Mike Williams and Okonkwo, wide receiver and tight end. Broncos D with Kelsey as our flex.
Okay, so you got off of Jacobs, yeah, and then Kelsey. This I like much more. Yeah, this makes a lot more sense, Pat. So Dalton with Olave, London coming back, Pollard and Sanders, and then Mike Williams and Conco in there. I like this build a lot more than what we were doing with just dropping down from Jacobs to Pollard, and actually don't see a big difference in either of these two guys this week in terms of projections. So just New England's a really good defense, and they can stop the run. They're gonna Bill's gonna have his plan for Devontae. He's gonna try to slow him down, but I think the biggest thing to slow down this Raiders team is to stop the run, because when Jacobs is not going, they're not going on offense. I like this build.
Yeah, and you can actually swap out, if you don't want to use Broncos D, you can actually get up to Patriots D.
Oh, nice. Just another $100 in there at 2.8. Yeah. So you could mess around with the two. I like this.
Here's the problem. It has Andy Dalton in it. That's not good. That's not good.
No. The matchup isn't awful. It's one of the better ones that he could have coming off the bye. Let's see. What has he done so far this season?
He has some 30-point games.
He's got two of them. One 22-point game where he had 3 touchdowns against the Rams.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Arizona game where he actually threw 6 touchdowns in that game. He had 4 to his own team and 2 to the other team.
And then 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
That was a primetime game, right? Of course it was, Andy Dalton.
So, I mean, listen,
yeah,
it's not fun to play Dalton in this circumstance, but I think the best one, like the easiest way to build, I think is through Trevor Lawrence. Again, he's too cheap.
Yeah, he's too cheap. He's been playing really good. His best football of the year. They're not going to have a lot. I don't think they're going to be able to do a whole lot on the ground. I don't think they're going to be able to run. And he's been throwing. He's been running too. I mean, he had a rushing touchdown last week and 4 total touchdowns, right? So I don't think we're expecting 4 total touchdowns, but the quarterback position, Fields is expensive. Hurts and Mahomes are obviously very expensive. Herbert's going to be the chalkiest quarterback, I think, on the entire slate. And then you're dropping down significantly. You're saving yourself $2,200 from Jalen Hurts to Trevor Lawrence. That's big time. That's pretty significant. And then you roll out a couple of his pass catchers, not named Christian Kirk, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, this will probably end up being the week that Kirk goes off because of that. But I do think the Fields, Kmet, Sanders is a pretty decent starting point as well, because it's just not – Fields is expensive, but Kmet's not. That's the only guy you're putting with it. And Sanders is the most affordable of the good Eagles.
Exactly. And, again, if they don't pop off, if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw for 2 or 3 touchdowns and it's just a big Miles Sanders day, then you're ahead of everybody who rolled out that entire Philly stack. Like Sanders is going to be the lowest owned of all those guys, even with Jalen Hurts, up at the top. People are going to get to him. People are going to spend on him, and they're going to back and forth with the 2 wide receivers. But Miles Sanders has been really good, man. He's been great this season. Almost every one of his games. I mean, it's like 5+ yards per carry, 8.5 last week, 6.8 against the Packers, and those were 2 smash spots. And this is another one against Chicago. So I do like having Miles Sanders in my lineups, especially if you're not going to play any of those other Eagles. I think just chucking him in as a flex or just a standalone as the only Eagle you have in that game, I think it makes a lot of sense.
All right. That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Week 15 DraftKings Picks. Getting that draw $1,000 being given away when Tambo's back in studio next week. Hopefully he's $2.5 million richer. That would be nice. And realistically, Meaney, because Tambo is Canadian like ourselves, and we do not get taxed on winnings like this, and our dollar is worth less, Tambo could be walking back with $3.4 million of tax-free money.
Let's go. That'd be awesome. Rooting for you, Tambo. You've been killing it this year. Like I said off the top, man, love that. Love the giveaways. Love everything that you're doing here, Pat, the Mayo Media Network. And I hope that he comes back with 3.2, whatever you said, $3+ million. Let's go. That'd be fantastic, man. What a rush.
And then, he's due to get paid by me in January for Fantasy Golf Degenerates. So, even more, he can throw another few thousand onto that to go with his $3.4 million.
Must be nice. Who do you think one of his guys are? Like, who do you think is one guy that he's definitely playing that he likes this week?
I've just been texting with him to kind of take his mind off of it and leave him to build. He's the pro here. Leave him to build it. But he only has the one entry, so he kind of leveraged his one entry off the other one in King of the Beach, and that's how he ended up on Deshaun Watson. But he ended up coming 6th with Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback. Like, Lawrence has just been hitting the past few weeks. I wouldn't be shocked if he had one of those Trevor Lawrence builds. I would recommend that he play Fields. I think if I'm going to shoot for the most upside, I think Fields might score 40 points against the Eagles, and the Bears might lose by fucking 40 points.
I think he's going to run wild. He always runs wild. I mean, his rushing yard prop is 68.5 or
I like
something silly like that. Yeah, me too. The Eagles have struggled to stop the run. They haven't really faced a quarterback that can run like this. The one quarterback that comes to mind that they have faced that can run and not nearly as nice as Justin Fields is Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones has had a lot of big rushing games against the Eagles. Even Tyrod Taylor, when he got in there last week, he was running around a bit. Well, so if the game does get out of hand, they were run late.
They were also down by like 40 points at that point. Tyrod,
which may be the case. It could be the case this week as well. Like they could be down significantly, and I don't think Fields will come off the field. He's going to play, and he could rack up some. Yeah, he's going to give him some fits. He's going to run around all weekend.
So tweet at Toe Tagging Tambo. Send him your best wishes. Unless it's Cust who's watching, then you don't do that. That'd be big. You tweet at everyone else who's playing and tell them that they're probably going to win. Do it to everyone besides Tambo. Maybe he'll cut you in on that deal. But if you follow at Toe Tagging Tambo on Twitter, you'll also get 2 ballots into the draw for the remaining $1,000 that is out there in the Mayo Media Network Christmas bonus giveaway. So go do that. You can find all of the other ways to do so in the description of this video or podcast. The Listeners League links are both down there for Saturday and Sunday. I think Saturday is, by the time this comes out, Saturday is going to be full. Sunday still has around 400 spots remaining, so go grab your spot in that. Follow Meaney at Chris Meaney and go check out ftndaily.com. If you enjoy yourself some daily fantasy, you want the projections, simulations, which are all completely customizable, highly suggest runthesims.com/Mayo. And shout out to our guy, Jonathan Gordon, who became the first sub to win the Millionaire Maker last week. That's awesome, life-changing stuff, so hopefully you can do it as well. All right, maybe I'll try to do it this week. That'd be great. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!